Hello. So if you've ever worked for DAO with DAOs, probably you will agree with me on the fact that the power structures in DAOs are very much a work in progress. This is an open question. Are they decentralized? Are they decentralized enough? Should they be more decentralized? What does that even mean to be decentralized? So that's essentially a legitimacy issue. Legitimacy is defined as the acceptance of a power structure or as the acceptance of an authority. And in DAOs, we pretty much agree to the authority of the collective to the extent that it is decentralized. But just behind this notion of decentralization, there is the one that comes next, which is efficiency. Because decentralized organizations are often chaotic and messy, they are criticized for being less efficient than traditional business organizations. So this is why I associate the two aspects here, and I'm going to walk you through this tension between legitimacy and efficiency. So hi again, my name is Phil. I'm the governance lead at Mangrove, and we've been working on DAO design for our own account. And today I'm going to share with you a few of the thoughts that we're having when designing our own DAO. Three main assumptions. One, protocol are platforms. Number two, Coinvoting cannot work. And number three, grants are not necessarily a good idea. So let's dive in. Protocols are like platforms. Obviously, in both cases, protocols and platforms, you have some sort of infrastructure, software infrastructure, on top of which things are being built, services are being delivered, some sort of economy is deployed. So that's the basic commonality between protocols and platforms. Then, if you look a little bit more into the specifics, web platforms are often described as double-sided or multi-sided, and you have generally two types of players engaging through a platform. There's the consumer side, so people who use, rent, buy the services that are delivered through the platforms, and then there is the offer side, the producers that create those goods or deliver those services through the platforms. And of course, there is the third type of stakeholders, the operators of the platforms, which happen to be most of the time the owners of the platform, and that define how and under which condition people can engage and interact. So actually, I make the parallel between Web 2 platforms, the traditional web platform that everybody know and use, like the YouTube, Apple Store, and Facebook, and Google, and whatnot, and also the Web 3 protocols. And here you have some kind of intentional mix between the two. You have Uniswap protocol, which is a DeFi protocol. You have Filecoin, you have Mangrove, which is the project I'm working with. What you could think of ENS, for instance, or Gitcoin. In each of those examples, you have a demand side and an offer side as well. So this is something that they have in common. And that leads me to a point where they differ. So let's go back a few years, back in time, and maybe some of you read this article by Chris Dixon called Why Decentralization Matters. And Chris Dixon had a point by describing how a platform evolved over time. His observation was that at the beginning, when a platform starts at their inception, they need to acquire users on both sides, right? If you have, I don't know, Uber without drivers or without riders doesn't work. So you need to attract at the same time a lot of users and achieve a critical mass. And this is hard stuff. In order to do that, they need to, most of the time, offer for free the services, subsidize users, do all kind of trick, lower the friction, lots of UX, in order to get people starting to use the platform. So at the beginning, there is a kind of seduction phase, And what happens after some time, if the platform is successful, if they reach some sort of level of basic economic performance, or even better, if they achieve the domination on the market, then the playbook changes, the story changes. Then they start to move from attracting users to extracting more value out of the users by raising fees, for instance, or by, let's take the example of Facebook, changing the terms of WhatsApp use in order to extract more value out of the personal data of their users. There is also a change with respect to the producers. Initially, there's a lot of cooperation between the platform and the producers, but then they move from a cooperative relationship to an extractive or even a competitive relationship. You know the famous case, like for instance, Amazon competing with the best-selling vendors on their own platform, or Twitter shutting down their API in order to regain the direct contact with their users and putting out of business the software vendors that built application on top of their social graph. A very famous example. The issue with that is that platforms are not business like others. They tend to be monopolies. They tend to be global. They tend to be without any competitors. Like Peter Thiel famously said, competition is for losers. That's the business of platform. Their trend is to monopolize the market. And we need them. We need them for transport, for moving around. We need them for socializing, for educating ourselves, for informing ourselves. We need them for all kinds of stuff. It's hard to think today of living without the platform. So we're basically in a situation of facing a predatory behavior of the basic utility that we use in our everyday digital life. So what's the solution that is offered by Chris in this famous article? Just use a token. Share the ownership. Instead of having one tier, one stakeholder that owns the rules of the game and that can apply this playbook of extraction and competition, just share the ownership. They don't do that, the owners, they don't do that because they're evil. They do that just because this is their incentives, right? They need to provide profit to the shareholders. This is how the game works. So distribute the ownership to all the stakeholders and you will solve the problem. And this is what is shown here. You have still producers, you have still consumers, but they're all owners through the token. Great. Or not. Legitimacy here is about how we make decisions together and how we see those decisions as valid. Core ownership in action with a token is called Coinvoting. So obviously Coinvoting can work in the sense of technically it works. This is today the way we make decisions in DAOs, in protocol DAOs, in most token-based DAOs. We use that and it works technically. What I'm saying is that it doesn't work in the sense that it doesn't achieve the purpose, the goal that was shared before. Why? Because either you're a user, you're a consumer, and you're a producer that use the token, that use the platform or the protocol in order to go about your business, to actually consume goods and services or to provide them. And then you don't care about the token. If it's airdrop to you, you're going to sell it and make money and move on. Or you're going to keep it and actually you're going to change your hat. You're no longer really a user. You're no longer a producer or your consumer. You become a shareholder. And as such, you're going to have exactly the same incentive as the shareholder of the company that was operating the platform in the first place. You will behave as a shareholder. So what's the solution if we really want to have a balanced governance between the different type of stakeholders so that there's no predators and prey? The answer is multi-stakeholder governance. This is not new. This is something that exists in the normal life. I'm not going to go through the details here. I don't have the time. But think about international organizations like standard bodies. Think about companies in Germany, mid-size and large. They have boards with employees. Think about modern democracies, like in the US, in the UK, in Germany, in France. They all have two houses. Bicameralism is a form of multi-stakeholder governance. You have a high chamber and a low chamber, and they represent different interests. For instance, in the US, the Senate represents the states, whereas the House of Representatives represents the people. And they have different consensus mode. So they are not elected the same way in order to have a balanced view of the world. We can do this as well. This is what we do, Mangrove. So just a few seconds on that. We're a DeFi project, a DEX, another book DEX. And what we do is actually enabling people to build strategies on-chain within the book. So that's what is special about Mangrove. This means, back to our conversation, that in order to be successful, Mangrove needs developers, strategists that are going to build added value product on top of the engine. Otherwise, this is just a DEX like many already exist. So we need to have different, we have different stakeholders, operators, people building the protocol and the ecosystem, developers, and then users and DeFi users. So this is how we plan to organize our governance with three main groups. This is the multi-stakeholder governance in work. Operators are the builders of the protocol and the ecosystem. Producers are the developers, and consumers and investors are everyone else. It can be users, it can be investors, it can be speculators. Anyone can access part of the ownership, but not all of the ownership is in the hands of anyone willing to buy a token on the secondary market. It's super interesting to see the ramification and the consequences of such a system, because you can invent all kinds of majority rules in order to balance the different interests. You can also have minority protection. So again, this is not something I can go through today, but I'm happy to discuss if people are interested after this presentation. And I'd like to finish with the third part regarding efficiency and my point that I was introducing around grants and why grants are maybe not such a good idea. So back to our general description of what is a platform and a protocol. What is super important at the beginning, or even for the whole life cycle of the platform, is actually to have a rich offer side. We need drivers for Uber, we need products for Amazon, we need strategies at Mangrove, right? So how do we do it in traditional protocols? Generally, if we had a token sale or a token launch that is successful, we have a big treasury, and people start to use this treasury in order to throw away a bunch of cash to anyone who is willing to build something on top of their platform. If you do this, then you have a result, which is this. On the one hand, you attract bounty hunters, people that are motivated by grants. They're going to run, they're going to work for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in order to get their grant, and then they will move on. They're not going to build something sustainable because what you offer them through grants is not sustainable neither. And then you have also to create inside a weird thing that is mostly centralized most of the time, which is a bureaucracy. You need process in order to be accountable for the money that is distributed. You need committees, you need people in charge, and this is a bureaucracy. My point here is that I'm not sure that this is something that we need in terms of building a thriving economy with an offer side and a demand side. And this is not actually how things are being built in the web world with expert building platform. Instead, there are two things that we can do. The first thing is create the condition for accessing a sustainable revenue for any developers that is building on the platform. The way we do it as Mangrove is by plugging the strategies that people will build on the platform to the economic engine of the protocol, which is the transaction fees that are triggered each time there is a transaction of the platform. So another way to say it is that people building strategies will get part of the fees that result from the strategy they are building. And the second part is lowering the cost of making business, of building a business. Normally, when you start building something, it requires skills. You need to attract people. You need to be with people that can complement your own skills, or you need to raise money in order to hire those people. What we're building here, inspired by a very good article that I recommend by Zero Justice, Efficient DAO Design, is a mesh of DAOs. Small teams that will be able to provide services to the people who are creating the strategies so that they can rely on the future revenue generated on the platform through value sharing agreement. I think I'm over time, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you. Let's build a business together. Yeah, I'm finishing on this. Thank you very much.